Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for the latest royal news and updates. I am your host, and today we bring you a story that is sending shockwaves through Hollywood, London, and everywhere in between. This is May 2026, and the silence has finally and completely broken. For almost 10 years, Trevor Engelson said nothing. He moved forward with his life, built something new, and never once tried to step back into the spotlight connected to his past with Meghan Markle. No interviews, no public statements, no bitterness played out in front of cameras. He simply disappeared from that chapter of his life and let the world hear only her version of events. But in May 2026, that silence is over. And what Trevor is now revealing is not just shocking. According to people who are very close to him, it is the kind of truth that cannot be walked back once it is spoken out loud. Because for nearly a decade, the world only knew Meghan's carefully constructed story. Her interviews, her documentaries, her version of who she was, where she came from, and why her first marriage ended. Trevor never corrected it. Trevor never pushed back. Trevor never once tried to tell his side. Until now. And the reason he stayed quiet for so long is the same reason his breaking of that silence hit so hard. He was not afraid. He was not hiding. He simply believed, for a very long time, that the truth would eventually speak for itself. But in 2026, watching the world continue to accept a version of events he knows to be deeply incomplete, Trevor Engelson has decided that waiting is no longer something he is willing to do. This is where it all begins. According to people who were very close to Trevor during his marriage to Meghan, she shared something with him early in their relationship that would quietly shape everything that followed. She reportedly told him she could not have children. For most couples, news like this would trigger long and emotional conversations, tears, questions, visits to doctors together, a shared grieving of the future they had imagined. But Trevor did none of that. He did not push back. He did not argue. He did not ask for second opinions or seek outside advice. He simply believed her, because loving her meant accepting the future she described to him, even if that future looked different from the one he had always imagined. He adjusted his dreams without complaint. He reshaped his expectations quietly and without resentment. He changed what he hoped for in life, and he never once used what she told him against her. Not in arguments, not in moments of frustration, not even when things between them began to fall apart. He carried what she told him with complete and total respect. But then came the moment that changed everything. When Meghan went on to have not one but two children with Prince Harry, that long-buried conversation came rushing back to Trevor like a wall suddenly collapsing. Sources close to him say he was not angry in the way people might expect. He was confused in a way that goes much deeper than anger. Lost. Hurt in the kind of way that settles under your skin and never fully leaves. That moment became the first real crack in his understanding of the woman he had married. A crack that had been quietly waiting in the dark for years. And in May 2026, that crack has become a very public fracture. But the pregnancy revelation is only the beginning of what Trevor is now sharing. Because the way the marriage ended, the actual moment it was over, is a story that has never been fully told before. And when you hear it, you will understand why the people closest to Trevor say this has stayed with him for years. After nearly a decade together, years of long-distance sacrifice, of building a life, of believing in a shared future, Trevor did not receive a conversation. He did not receive a phone call. He did not receive an explanation, a warning, or even a single moment to ask what had gone wrong. Instead, one ordinary day, a small package arrived at his door. Light, plain-looking. Nothing about it suggested what was inside. He opened it, and there, sitting at the bottom of that package, was Meghan's wedding ring. No note, no message, no goodbye, no explanation of any kind. Just the ring, the symbol of everything they had built together, dropped into a mailbox and mailed back to him like a returned item from a shop. Sources who know Trevor well say this moment wounded him more deeply than any argument ever could have. Not because of the ring itself, but because of what it communicated without a single word. She had already left the marriage long before she put that ring in the post. She had made her decision, privately, quietly, completely alone, and he was not included in the ending of the story they had once shared. When he opened that box, everything his family had quietly sensed for years suddenly made painful and perfect sense. And that brings us to something that, in May 2026, people close to Trevor are now speaking about openly for the very first time. Long before Meghan ever met Prince Harry, long before there were royal engagements or Windsor Castle or global television interviews, she had reportedly created something that insiders are now describing as deeply calculated. A vision board. Vision boards are common. People fill them with holiday dreams, career goals, images of the life they hope to one day have. But this one, according to multiple people who claim to have seen it firsthand, was something very different. Right at the center of that board was Prince Harry, not as a celebrity crush, not as a vague fantasy, as a specific and planned destination. People familiar with the board describe it not as scattered wishful thinking, but as a laid-out, deliberate path. She had studied the royal family. She had thought carefully about possibilities. She had not just imagined being beside a man, she had imagined being inside an entirely different world, a royal world. And when Trevor learned about this detail, the timeline of it, the specificity of it, the fact that it existed long before she ever entered Harry's life, the quiet drift he had felt throughout their marriage stopped feeling like confusion. It started feeling like direction. She was not lost during their marriage. She was not unhappy by accident. She was moving towards something she had already mapped out. And he was simply the chapter she needed to finish and close before she could begin the next one. But in May 2026, the revelation that is truly stopping people in their tracks is the one connected to the very first meeting between Meghan and Prince Harry. According to insiders who knew Meghan well during that period, she arrived at that first encounter wearing Princess Diana's favorite perfume, a specific scent that was deeply and powerfully tied to Harry's memories of his mother, to his childhood, to his grief, to the emotional wound that has never fully healed. The science of scent is not mysterious. Smells bypass the thinking brain entirely and go straight to the part that holds memory and emotion. They can transport a person back in time in an instant. They can create a feeling of safety, of warmth, of familiarity, even when the person experiencing it cannot explain exactly why. To Harry, that first meeting felt like something he had not felt in a very long time. Comfort, recognition, a connection he could not put into words. But to the people who knew Meghan well, it did not feel accidental. They are adamant that it was not. It was a quiet, precise, and carefully considered choice, one designed to reach into the most vulnerable and unguarded part of Harry's heart without him ever realizing it was happening. And when Trevor learned about this, when this detail was passed along to him through people connected to that world, something clicked into painful focus. The quiet, emotional calculation he had felt throughout his own marriage, the steady and deliberate drift away from their shared life, the sudden, wordless ending. What he had once experienced as confusion, he now recognized as something else entirely. Because if Meghan was this precise and this intentional with Harry from the very first moment, how intentional had she been with him? Do not forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report for more breaking royal news and updates. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now so you never miss a story. And now, in May 2026, the impact of Trevor's revelations is being felt somewhere nobody expected. Inside the walls of the Montecito mansion. According to whispers from people close to the Sussex household, Harry's reaction to Trevor's recent disclosures has not been anger. It has not been a press statement or a denial. It has been something far more telling. Quiet, long pauses, private and withdrawn moments that sources describe as a man replaying his own memories and looking at them through a completely new lens. One insider claims Harry recently said something that cut through the atmosphere of the entire household like a knife. He reportedly said, quietly, almost to himself, "Stop blaming the palace for everything." That one sentence reveals more than any public statement ever could. It reveals exhaustion. It reveals the very first real fractures of doubt in the absolute and unconditional trust he once placed in Meghan's version of every event. For the first time, Harry is not immediately defending. He is not immediately explaining things away. He is sitting with questions he previously refused to ask. And all of it was triggered by Trevor Engelson. the one man who knew Meghan before the fame, before the strategy, before the reinvention. But here is what makes May 2026 truly different from every previous chapter of this story. Trevor is not finished. Sources extremely close to him say he has been sitting on significantly more information for years, holding it back out of personal dignity, out of a reluctance to revisit painful history, and out of a code of restraint that very few people in his position would have maintained for this long. But that restraint, insiders say, is now fading fast. There are quiet but credible mentions of a memoir already in early stages. A second sit-down interview that is reportedly far more detailed and far more direct than anything he has said publicly before. Personal letters, documented timelines, private communications that paint a picture of the marriage the world has never been shown. And according to those closest to him, what may be pushing Trevor hardest toward full disclosure is not bitterness. It is the reported behind-the-scenes pressure, legal, social, and otherwise, that sources say has been applied in attempts to keep him quiet. Because if there is one thing Trevor Engelson's story has made absolutely clear, it is this: pressure does not silence him. It motivates him. This is a man who carried the truth alone for nearly a decade. He did it with dignity. He did it without revenge. He did it while watching a carefully constructed public image be accepted as the full and complete story. But in May 2026, Trevor has decided that dignity does not require permanent silence. And the world, he believes, is finally ready to hear what he knows. Because here is the truth at the center of all of this. Trevor Engelson is not a man from Meghan's past who is trying to damage her future. He is a man who lived a version of her story that was never included in any interview, any documentary, any Netflix series, or any carefully worded public statement. He is the chapter she skipped, the witness she counted on staying quiet. The person whose silence was so essential to the story, she told that his speaking is now the single most disruptive thing that could happen to that story. The first domino has fallen. In May 2026, the rest are beginning to move. And the question that everyone, from Hollywood to the palace, is now quietly asking is simple. If Trevor, the man who knew her before everything, is finally speaking without hesitation, who else has been waiting for exactly this moment to do the same? This is not the end of Meghan's story. This is the beginning of its unraveling. And Royal Daily Report will be here for every single moment of it. That is all for today's report. If you found this story important, please subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now for daily royal news and exclusive updates. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear the full story, and tell us what you think in the comments below. Until next time, this is Royal Daily Report, keeping you fully informed on everything royal.